Under arrest.
Look, I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest.
Welcome to Silly Whales, where we're back again. I say we're back again every single week, so if we're going somewhere, we're not going anywhere. We are the constants in your lives. Okay? What we aim to be. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Constantine.
Yeah, we are the constants. We are the anchor points. We are the stability. Well, we say all these things, but we aim to be that. In reality, you know, we're probably none of those things.
I struggle to be that for myself.
Yeah, if you blow on us too hard, we will just blow away and fade away. But hey, it is what it is. We're here, episode 46. We're 4 episodes away from actually being middle-aged. Like, we've been making comments about we've been me. We've been discussing being middle-aged from the age of 30-something onwards. But after reflection with myself and with Joe, we're both approaching 30, and we don't want to be called middle-aged that early. So, we're pushing it till 50.
I do think, just to that little point, I do feel younger, weirdly, as time has gone by. I think as I have kind of probed my mental health space, I do feel slightly younger, but I think that's probably a feeling of, oh, I don't feel like I want to die in the next 20 years kind of thing. And, oh, you know, and that the next 20 years isn't going to look like the next 50 years, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just going to be the same throughout all my life. Like, the sense of change and improvement and so on does affect that, I think, in a way. It gives me a future, I suppose. And so that makes me feel younger, despite my growing age. But we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know about age anymore. I've given up. Like,
it's a useless construct anyway.
It is. We have segments, and this is the first segment of the show. It is called, I'm just going to do the whole thing now, innit? It's time for Mental Health This Week.
MHTW!
Yep, Mental Health This Week. We have articles from the past week in mental health, and this is a big one. Actually, to be honest, one of the articles I barely understand, but Joe's going to explain it really well. The second one is big. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to kick the ball to Joe to start the whole thing off.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense because whereas the second article is very much like it's about someone that we've not only talked about before, but about a very big event that would be considered news in that respect. This one is more of a kind of layover, if you will, or like a stepping stone towards something that exists. In general, I have been bringing along like what would you call them, like studies and things like that for this, and I've done the same this week. I think I have a tendency to enjoy anything that's kind of what's the word, like research related. So apologies if that is not as interesting to people. But the major thing is that there is this, as you'll see in the description, there is a Science Daily article, also on PLOS 1, PLOS all caps. I'm not sure what that stands for, actually. Which is a journal. There is a study which is essentially attempting to be a meta-analysis of many years worth of data. And what this article has put forward is a method and kind of general description and discussion about something when they want to do, which is to to collate loads of data from previous studies looking at the the benefits of particular, like of 5 particular empirically supported treatments for adult depression. So this is all to do with depression, and basically taking all of the information that comes from this, and effectively what the plan is in the future is to create essentially an algorithm that can act as an aid when determining what the best kind of treatment might be for a particular person based off of what they call they call it IDP is one version of that. Hold on, let me just bring up what IDP means again, because I completely forgot. But essentially it's like demographic pieces of information. So it can include gender, it can include comorbid God, I've lost the paragraph and that's annoying me. Comorbid conditions, if you have anxiety or personality disorders, and other psychiatric conditions, gender, age, if I didn't already say those. So effectively there's these 5 different treatments, and as a result, there's a lot of, these are all quite different from each other. And so there's sort of a necessity to maybe find out what each of these treatments are best at. IPD, by the way, is individual participant data, so just everyone's particular data, and it's taking all of that information and then going, okay, do we put them in? These are the 5 treatments. Like, and how big a deal or useful is antidepressant medication? How useful will cognitive therapy be? Behavioral activation. I believe cognitive therapy includes CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy, I believe exists in that.
Yep.
Behavioral activation, interpersonal psychotherapy, and what's called psychodynamic therapy, which I believe is like a particular kind of like deep talking therapy of a particular kind. So these are not like specifically, I know about like a little bit about this because of like, I don't know, psychology A level, but I didn't even complete that. And even when I look at these, like some of these words didn't quite, I don't know what psychodynamic therapy is, for example. I don't think I've ever heard that in my life. It's not really relevant because they are not epistemologically, they're supported empirically. There you go, empirically supported. So these are treatments that exist and they are being used. And it's effectively like, hey, if we can find out that, that this particular kind of treatment works in this case for someone, there is nowhere that it is said, and this was something I was interested in whether they were going to add. Because by the way, it could be completely worthless as a demographic, but like I was wondering if they were going to put like culture or ethnicity things or like even religion as part of this. I don't know. I imagine based upon the information they have gathered, whether or not that's even relevant or not, which I would guess that largely speaking, things like ethnicity, for example, is not relevant. Religion might be, because there might be particular kind of avenues of discussing things, that work a bit like how with alcohol addiction, for example, Alcoholics Anonymous is necessarily like created from a religious perspective. So you can not be religious and use it, and they have like a way of you following their 12-step plan, even if you're not. But it might be that there is another version of this that's better, for someone if you're dealing with addiction in that respect. And things like cultural specific things, like I doubt that they would ask about things like, about things that aren't like ethnicity. Like if we're just, this is a US study, so, well, it's actually not, because this includes one university from Netherlands, so that's not quite true actually. So in fact, having said that, maybe there would actually be something like, not ethnicity maybe, but nationality or something like that. But regardless, the idea is that this is something you could easily do yourself, like as a patient. All you would need to do is just provide your personal IPD, like, what's my age, what's my gender, what's my, and describing the things that you already know about yourself that can be described. And this could act as an aid, especially with a lack of data for a particular person, or if a person has to make a decision on the fly, and also outside of like more professional people, something like could your GP, for example, who is not necessarily like set up for this, at least push you in the right direction first, more so than because they're going to refer you to something. So would it be better to refer you to this thing over this thing, like assuming you have multiple options available to you? And I'm sure that there's lots that can come out of this that needs to be looked at in terms of, you know, overview of the of whether it's working, obviously, and so on. But the idea is just to say, like, hey, let's try and create a generalized model that people can use in order to more effectively get treatment that is actually weirdly more individualized to them, using a kind of like generic model that determines sort of where it's best. And the actual like effort, like the actual efficiency of this, like how useful it will even be, is completely unknown to me. I'm not like trying to. I try to get. I'm sometimes giving stuff in like a science way where I'm not saying that like something is good or something is like necessarily going to be really effective or useful. Sometimes I just find things to be interesting within this perspective, but I really don't have a proper sense for this because this is sort of because something that actually actively is like, okay, let's take these bits about you and like decide where it's best for you to go. It's just something that I have, and especially the differences between these particular therapies. I know, you know, for example, medication is a particularly different from like cognitive therapy, right? So there's a big distinction there. But medication might, you know, there might be something about you which actually, based on like even medical history that you might already have, that suggests that medication is not a good idea for you. And that could, in the early stages, what they call like, I think it's stage 1, first line treatments, right? Like your first line treatments with a big part of this is trying to reduce the chance that like you do not respond to your first line treatment and it's completely useless and waste your time and can make you feel worse in the process. For example, like in the case of if it's just the case of you doing something that's trying to help and it's not helping, or if you're just thinking about it from the perspective of, yeah, something like medication has side effects. So do you want to give people who may have, if there are like clear acknowledging factors that may make those kind of side effects worse, based on different I keep getting IPD and IDP in my head. IPDs, if there are particular IPDs that could actually suggest that medication is not like a good step initially, then, you know, then that would be helpful. All of this should be taken alongside like actual professional like thoughts, but I think that there is something to any kind. I like generalized things you can do that are going to be based off data to push in a direction. And honestly, what may come out of this is that none of this is that useful or it doesn't really work in practice, right? And if it doesn't, then that will be good enough as well. It will actually push for the idea that there needs to be a significant, that the actual emphasis must be away from general and towards case by case. And it's not that general is just worse than case by case. It's a necessary, not evil, but it's a necessary like thing. If you're going to have a system that works around trying to help people, you need ways to easily give people, like push people in the right direction. And you can't always have case by case. So it's not so much I don't look at this just as a necessary evil. It might turn out to be a necessary good in that sense. But as long as it is actually helpful and it's not just completely like useless and doesn't say anything, then perfect. But I just like kind of drawing people towards these kind of studies and these kind of objectives, I suppose, and also getting people to think about what kinds of objectives in science we should be looking for it with regards to like with regards to treatment, with regards to patient interaction, diagnosis, etc. Because it's all needs to happen at some point, and the question is what kind of system do you want to see by the end of it?
like it seems like we need to head in a direction anyway, as you said, where we're actually getting specialized care for individuals rather than a blanket care system.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at a state now where if this could avoid people going through trialing 3 or 4 different medications to find the right one, having to have unnecessary scans or having to get their friends and family to fill out 45 different questionnaires to see whether they actually align with this and all that stuff. It's a hassle. It's an administrative hassle. But it's a necessity because, how are you supposed to know if this medication is good for you and the other one isn't good for you? You have to try them all. However, we should reach a point now where we can probably have a rough idea of what medications would work and what medication wouldn't work. For example, I was on SSRIs, which never worked. But when I said I need to swap, they were like, "No, it was fine. You have to give it time to work." It's 2 months and I'm feeling worse. Like, if I could skip out all of that, that'd be great. But the reality is that the patients are in a rush, and the patients, especially if they care about the fact that they're not feeling great mentally, they're not showing any sort of timidity. They want to get the answers to their questions. But GPs, they're never going to rush anything, They're never going to rush anything. There's no need for them to rush anything, so they're not going to try to rush anything. It's a process and it takes this long. And they'll always give you the guideline of how long things are going to take. But in order to cut down things like waiting lists, in order to cut down the anguish and the anxiety that comes with making these healthcare decisions, if something like this is actually implemented in some way, shape, or form, as long as it's done correctly, like in most things we discuss, it could be a game changer,
Yeah, I think the speed is good, and I think I think to prevent the situation which sometimes happens, which is just certain professionals will say you should do this thing, and they say that to basically everyone, kind of like with your SSRI situation, right? I think if it was very clear that medication wouldn't help, then, and there was something that suggested that, then it would be much harder to, assuming that this was available to whoever, that this kind of information was available to whoever it was that asked you about it or gave you that prescription or whatever. If this was a person who did that all the time, then it would be harder to justify in a sort of in a larger set, professionally for them, it would be hard to justify, but then maybe in a larger sense, in the healthcare system in general, it would be much easier to kind of go down the list of what makes sense the most given data prior, and being able to work off that seems like a better start point, at least, compared to someone just using the same, just using one, it's like a broken clock isn't being right twice a day isn't actually a very good win rate if you think about it in terms of success rate. Win rate, it's success rate if you think about diagnosing or prescribing kinds of treatment to people. So at least something that is maybe an approximation of what is best is still much better than sometimes in just pure kind of human intuition, if you know what I mean. And again, yeah, like you said, this is not to say that we take the human out of it, and importantly, it's definitely not to say that this is that we want to make a blanket broad, this is how everyone, this is the treatment you should have, because the whole point of it is to literally put you down into the pathways of a particular treatment and away from just offering one particular treatment every single time. So it comes down to whether their methodology works and whether the data is enough, given the factors they want to include to actually provide a full picture.
Yeah. Yeah, again, like with everything we discuss when it comes to like from Science Daily, these are things that we'll probably end up recircling back to in months to years' time. So
Yeah, totally. Science is sometimes slow.
on to the next.
Mm-hmm. Event
Cool.
time.
Here we are. Our best friend, Joe's uncle, everybody's favorite man of the year. I'm not talking about the song by Schoolboy Q. I'm talking about the one and the only Robert fucking Kennedy Jr. Like, we talk about this guy a lot, and I want to make it abundantly clear that we hold him to a very high standard. We hold him in the highest of regards. We think he is a pioneer of healthcare and a pioneer of everything that is good in the world. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Me and Joe, we both committed election fraud and we voted for him in the election 3 times each. We set out a stall in the middle of London saying why everyone should vote for him, even if they're not American. We have said this multiple times, we'll say it again. He is the real president of the United States. Not Donald Trump, not Elon Musk. Him. RFK Jr. Inshallah, God save us all. And God save Robert F. Kennedy's soul. So, our Lord and Savior Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has continued his absolutely fucking stupid approach to dealing with neurodivergent conditions such as autism by effectively going down the route of another one of history's great people, the man who, you know, was very popular for the wrong reasons in the 1940s, by wanting to create a registry of people who are autistic. Now, I'm going to have 2 articles for you guys to read, but it's everywhere else. What he wants to now do is he wants to perform and do studies on the causes of autism, as he still believes it's led to, well, he still thinks vaccines cause autism. He still thinks that we are at a state where autistic people can't contribute to society. And this stuff has a chilling effect on the world we live in now, as he truly believes that othering neurodivergent people is the way forward. There's a variety of reasons why making a registry of autistic people isn't a good thing. For starters, we've already seen it now online with people saying that they're no longer going to consider getting their child diagnosed, and they're no longer going to try and get diagnosed. The fact that autism diagnosis has been rising rapidly over the past few years is something that should be celebrated. Kennedy Jr. feels like it's something that should be condemned. So straight away, DEI cuts to research in autism have been completely slashed. There's no research at all for it. Nothing's going to happen there. And then to make things worse, every single time he opens his mouth, it is actually scarily authoritarian and scarily fear-mongering. And I quote, this is him talking about autistic people. These are kids who never pay taxes, they'll never hold a job, they'll never play baseball, they'll never write a poem, they'll never go on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize that we are doing this to our children and we need to put an end to it. What does that even mean? This is what the Trump administration is all about. You can never really quantify the nonsense that they're talking about, so you end up having to sift through things and trying to pick things apart. And whenever you try and present this to somebody who supports this, they just go, oh, you're reading too much into it. That's not actually going to happen. Well, the Muslim ban was never actually going to happen. Guess what? It did. You know, the economy is supposed to be saved. He's never going to do anything like the tariffs. He's just messing around. He says things. Here we are with tariffs. Like, he's going to stop the war in Ukraine. From what I can see, the war is still very much going on. Everything that they have said they're going to do, guess what? They actually have the power to do it. So when we go back into this thing with autism, they want to make it so that autistic people are seen as others. They're not part of human society. They are lesser than. They want to create registry. They want to also pretty much have every single bit of information they can get from autistic people. They want to have the information. They want to access the information for quote unquote research. They're not saying what the research actually is, apart from saying it's to figure out the cause of autism, even though there's no actual link through the data. There's no need for it. The data that they have already, they're not using. So it's incredibly scary because they're getting the data without American citizens' permission either, which means that the free speech loving party, the Republican Party, the no to censorship Republican Party, the freedom of expression Republican Party is currently censoring scientists, illegally deporting free, legal US citizens, and now stealing the data of US citizens. The jokes continue. The jokes continue. Now, what does this mean for people who are autistic? Well, it means that you are no longer safe. I'm not fear-mongering in an adverse situation. I'm being fully honest with you. In the UK, we have multiple schemes and different setups to help people with special educational needs. One of them being point blank, we actually make it so people with neurodivergent conditions are treated as equal. And people who need support, they're given support. And in my opinion, we're not doing enough in the United Kingdom. In the United States, they've gone backwards. And they're going to continue to go backwards. Because guess what? Autism is a wide spectrum, which means it affects people in different ways. And the idea of somebody looking autistic is really, well, it's kind of wild, really, because no one can look autistic. It's a very blanket statement. But if we're going to go off stereotypes, if we're going to go off of thoughts and feelings about what an autistic person should be and what an autistic person should look like, I'm going to be the one to say it. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is probably the most autistic guy I have probably ever seen in the history of US politics. There's no, if the registry was made today, he would be the first one on it. like the way he talks, the way he interacts with people, the weird and crazy shit he's done. This guy screams neurodivergent. So what is he planning on doing? Because guess what? The Nazis rounded up people and put them into registers of the disabilities they had, and they exterminated them. So what are you going to do with this list of people? And there have been talks of camps as well for people with different conditions. This is literally third world-esque levels of. Do you know what? Is it even third world? It's not. This is just taking us back into the 1940s. This is we are steps away from the camps that they said they wanted to open being open. We literally have these camps already for illegal migrants. Illegal, quote unquote. We are heading down a very dangerous road. And what's going to happen is, and this is my prediction, the fear of people being seen as autistic in America is going to rise rapidly, which means the amount of people diagnosed with autism will decrease. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is then going to say, hey, look, I got rid of autism and we're not going to get any better and things aren't going to improve. So, yeah. My biggest fear right now is that the UK is going to end up following suit somehow. Because, for long story short, the Labour Party isn't a left-wing party. It has left-wing elements to it. But the man in charge is not left-wing at all. People say he's centre-right. I just think he's right-wing. This is probably going to end up coming to the UK in some way, shape, or form. Not as aggressive, not as strong. But there'll be cuts to mental health care services. Oh, wait, there already is. There'll be cuts to work internships. Oh, wait, there already is. There'll be ridiculous waiting lists for diagnosis of mental health conditions. Oh, wait, there already is. So we are now in a situation where we go after people who can't always defend themselves. Because as I said before, when it comes to things like autism, it's a very wide spectrum. There's professional fighters, professional footballers with autism. There's podcast hosts with autism. There's multiple, pretty much, it is impossible to say someone's autistic, which means they can't help themselves. A lot of people go through their whole lives without knowing that they have autism.
Mm-hmm.
And no one around them thinks that they do. So now what we're doing is we're restricting people's ability to understand themselves. Fun. Yeah.
The science is also just, I mean, we talked about this. I was, while you were talking, I tried to find what episode we spoke about RF Kennedy, and it was episode 36, which is called He's Like MLK or Gandhi, We Can Heal to That, in reference to Diary of a CEO. But it is stunning, just, you know, him and his position. At the time, we just commented on, okay, there's a scary element to having someone in his position with some of the views he has. There's a problem there, and he needs to be scrutinized, and he should have been scrutinized prior to being put on it. But again, that's Trump administration, so whatever.
Well, the thing is, sorry, Joe, he was scrutinized and he was attacked heavily by multiple members of Congress, because that's what happens. But the reality is that you can be scrutinized a lot, but no one can really stop you. So people outwardly said, you were against vaccines. And he was like, no, I wasn't. Yeah, you were. Here's the proof that you were. I wasn't. I don't remember this. That's pretty much all it was.
Yeah, I suppose there's an assumption I make with the word scrutinize, which is that there should be some reaction to that. That there should be some kind of, like, you know, thing that happens when someone gets scrutinized and found to be clearly underqualified for a position. I suppose that's my naive sense of the word. So allowing for that, I feel that there should be some recompense for having and outwardly talking about, even in opening speeches, like clearly wrong, fundamentally wrong ideas. And, you know, I mean, just like reading through this as well, both kind of the Independent and the Guardian both tackle this in different ways. Like they give different, you know, they talk about different kind of specifics around the kind of the defense against it. Sorry, the sort of, you know, against what he is saying. From like, hey, look, we already know that it's 80% is like pure genetics, and then there's like 15%, which is kind of which is based around like stuff that occurs prenatal development. So, for example, having, I believe it was rubella, which hilariously, MMR vaccine stops you having rubella, which could potentially cause a kid to have autism, just ridiculous, like, levels of comedy. You know, how wrong you can be as a person in this position. Even down to the words he uses, like an epidemic, like that's how this works. Like it's so bizarre. But it's not just bizarre, like I said, because because I want to get away also from just saying that it's a case of he's an idiot, because that's not really how you should view problematic people. In one, because they might not be. They might be doing it on purpose and you don't know. And the second thing is, it seems to take away authority from them for you, but it doesn't take authority away from the people who agree with them or disagree with you, right? That is not the language that's going to change the conversation or the discussion in a way that is fruitful. Is the best way of me describing it. The problem is like the literal, like I said, like the use of the word epidemic. It's the language that is used here is attempting to. It is used in order to make it seem like there aren't actual reasons why, for example, the number of diagnoses of autism has gone up. for example, improved screening of people in general, right? In particular, as The Independent says, non-white and lower income children, which guess what, makes up a large number of people. Like lower income children, guess what? Lots of people are lower income. So, you know, that does create a big change, you know, and so there are these like very clear reasonings that exist, which emotive language uses to give this sense that it isn't being looked at, or this hasn't been considered, or that like scientists don't know anything, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like you're literally a mouthpiece for everything that we're not. So we go over him again in that episode. Maybe there's a reason to go back to that episode just to kind of listen to some of the things we talk about, specifically like some of the other things that he claimed. You know, for where that's maybe useful to think about what kinds of shit you might expect from this administration. But yeah, no, it's bad without going into some of that, and then it's, you know, like, yeah, there's not much more I can say other than just repeat what you've already said. I think, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to harp on it, but yeah, I mean, like you said, that quote you gave about they will never do this, they will never do that, they'll never play baseball, etc., is such a fearmonger strategy that has been around for a long time. Like, obviously you've alluded to it, and is obviously very present. You know, it's present in many areas, and I also want to just put out there how much I am how sympathetic I am to people in the US who are having to deal with these motherfuckers. So if there is any like solace in that, then take it, but I doubt it. But I will very much be, I think we will very much be like thinking about what this means on a larger scale, and also, yes, looking at our own government and trying to, and keeping an eye on what our government is attempting to do, because unfortunately the UK does love to follow the US, despite what it suggests about it being different from the US, better than the US in different ways. It's largely not true when it comes down to where politics tends to go towards, except for drugs. Apparently that's their only thing that they can't possibly change on, but you know.
Well, that's the thing. Says who, really? Because Texas hasn't legalized weed yet, to my knowledge.
Oh, of course. So I should be clear. Like, it is in, you know, I mean, there is just I suppose the federal law is different, I guess, and that's the thing I'm comparing it to. But yeah. But
I give it 10 years, and I'll give it now. We'll start having a conversation about marijuana being banned again. Something to do with religion. So I give it 10 years, and there'll be serious conversations about whether it should be legalized or not in the United States. In the United Kingdom, we're never going to get it. Keir Starmer outwardly said, nah, he's not about it, which is great, because he said the research says it's not good. The research was 15 years old. We're now in 2025, and he's still going out, the research. So
also, there's research around that time that suggests the opposite. So yeah, I'm just,
because he's a dopey cunt.
Yeah. You can have a personal opinion on it. I get it, but I just dislike I dislike the way that any of this information is put out like it's objective fact versus a particular one study that you like versus another.
Right. On the topic of back to RFK, so he's outwardly, as you mentioned, Joe, going against what scientists say, but it's very clear there's a gathering consensus that the cause of, well, I hate the word cause, but the primary cause of autism is a genetic thing. We discussed genetics last week, actually.
Yeah.
And though it's not the definitive answer, it is everything points to that. All roads point to it being a genetic case, including scientific theory as well. And RFK's opening statement, pretty much, as he took the healthcare job, is that we're going to find the culprits. And we're going to look at mold. Okay, we'll go to J.K. Rowling's house. You'll find lots of it there. And, you know, we're going to find food coloring. So now they're going to get rid of food coloring and lots of cereals because they cause autism. We're going to look at pesticides. We're going to look at the air and the water and the medicines, which I find really funny because he then says we're going to look at ultrasounds as well. And he, despite there being proof that none of these things can actually cause autism, he then said, well, there's going to be people who don't want us to look at the environmental exposures. It's a direct quote. Which I find really, really funny because it's the idea again of creating a mental divide where, the scientists are trying to stop us from finding the truth. The scientist's job is to find the truth. A scientist doesn't care about what the answer to a question is. They just want to find the answer. Which is what makes science so interesting because, in my field, which is psychology mostly, right? If we do a study on the development of children's independence in a family setting, the biggest crucial barrier we had at the time was that all the results were very Western based.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this idea that the global North, as in the United Kingdom, United States, all the countries there, had all the answers. We never looked at the global South. So we never looked at sub-Saharan Africa. We never looked at parts of Asia. We never looked at different cultures. So all of our answers were pretty much collated from one region of the world. When we expanded it all, guess what? Everyone's knowledge grew. When we connected dots from different places, everyone's knowledge grew. But to then shut out the same, but say we took a different view to it. Say we went, hey, we think that there's better results if we interview and discuss and research with everybody, but we can't have the public know about this research. So we're going to just keep it to the global North. That just sounds stupid.
Right.
And in science, if something's stupid, guess what? They tend to not do it, which is why they're not looking into food additives because they know there's no correlation to it. It's not something that factually makes sense. And scientists already said, hey, could be environmental stuff into it, and we will look at it. But right now, we're looking at the genetic side because the genetic side is where we found evidence that it could link. But no. It's not good enough.
Not to mention that it's ridiculous to imagine that there is some kind of agenda with this, because across all the different potential things that a person could have or anything that science has really looked at, it's not even like genetics is the first thing people care about. It's not like genetics is is like a really hot button thing for the majority of scientists to want to look at. I mean, even if you think about it from a political perspective, right? Talking about something in terms of genetics is slightly worrying, whenever you talk about it, because it's like, oh, okay, well, so we're saying that you're kind of born with it and you don't control it and things like that. And sometimes that can be a scary thing to suggest within to people just because they will take it into, the areas of fucking eugenics and stuff like that. Not the scientists, but the people who hear this kind of information and say, oh, well, this person is genetically wrong or something like that. Or, oh, well, I think then that autistic people, oh, that must mean that black people are more autistic because I'm going to decide that some race or whatever is inferior in some way. So it's not even I would suggest that genetics is somehow the corner or the area in which science tends to look at. When I fucking first found out that was the case with autism, I was genuinely, I wouldn't say I was surprised, but I was like, oh, most of the time I hear environmental things being associated with psychological disorders and so on. Not so much like genetic in this, to the extent to which autism is, right? It's significant. The exact reason is because, they found that that's the case. We've already debunked all of the other, the shit talking about the MMR vaccine, for example, and everything. It is incredible. I know partly why, the vaccine stuff is such a big deal, because this is part of a larger QAnon style conspiracy shit that exists in the world, unfortunately. But but to be clear, it's so we are talking about ancient knowledge effectively from a scientific perspective that does not have not only doesn't have the backing that would allow someone in his position to even mention it really, but also is just a complete misunderstanding of what it is to be autistic, given the way that he also describes like what autistic people are like, what the idea of like developing autism in the way in the form of like in the way that an epidemic might, for example, or whatever. The fact that everything that he describes doesn't seem to relate to when and where the increase comes from, you know, like the when, at what time and at what place do we seem to have more autism diagnoses, and does that seem to relate to these particular things that he describes? No. Like I can't say more than just there is truly nothing like it, and yes, there is nothing wrong with suggesting that there could be environmental factors for it, because guess what, I would have assumed, I think my first assumption when I was younger was to assume, when I was at uni, was to assume that autism had something, you know, that might have been like might have had a strong environmental effect. It was actually one of the reasons why I initially was worried that calling myself autistic, because I was worried that I was putting myself in a camp that I wasn't allowed, that I didn't even know, that I didn't know about, you know, that there was like, what if it is some environmental thing instead, and it's got nothing to do with that. I've squared that away for now, and I can see reasons why to suggest it, because I don't actually have like, you know, genetic proof or whatever. But the data seems to suggest this very, very hard, and there's really no reason to not make these, like, make the actual steps in the direction that helps people versus trying to, you know, fight poltergeists or, you know, the spirits of other concerns that seem to not suggest that at all, you know. Again, it's just a whole, I don't know. the more I talk about it, the more I realize I'm breaking my head. So
Andrew Wakefield has a lot to answer for. Someone needs to punch him in the face, because it's guys like him who have pushed this agenda, and they came at it from I'm a doctor standpoint, and there's people who, you know, yeah, we can talk about this forever, but when it comes to what this means, really, really think hard. If you're listening to the show and you ticked Trump as your vote for the election, I want to really think hard about whether or not that was your best choice, and what you plan on doing now. Because in my head, well, to put it bluntly, there's no universe in which this was a good decision, and the world will pay for it. That's it, really.
Cool. Not
right.
Cool, but cool.
It is now time for the journal. Yep, it's time for the journal. Who's first on this thing? Oh, it's me. Yeah, because Joe has nothing to say.
No, not really. I mean, I talked to you about something previously, but I wanted to think about that more anyway and actually put it into practice before I talked about it. So,
but we'll I do. I completely forgot. So last week's episode, I was supposed to mention the fact that while I was playing football, somebody went into my bag and stole my wallet. Well, they took my wallet and they emptied out all the cards from it, including my fucking Nando's card. Okay?
Tragedy.
I know. But guess what? They left one single card in that wallet. And it was my Arsenal rewards card. And to be honest, I'm grateful for it. Okay? The card doesn't work anymore, but thanks. My provisional license was in a secret compartment in the wallet, and they didn't get that either. But yeah, they stole that, and they stole like a kid's phone as well. They took his mobile phone, and it really re-emphasizes like keeping track of all your stuff and just making sure you're looking after your belongings. Because not like, well, I would love to say it wasn't out of my sight. It was right next to me. We were playing football, and the bag was just like on the side of the pitch. So this all happened. Like, don't know how and when it happened, but it did happen. Really, really sucked. It could have been worse if this, like, my phone was deeper in my bag, so they could have definitely taken it. As was my work phone, which is like it's an iPhone fucking 16, man. Like, I've never had a phone so good before. It's weird. But yeah, that happened. I got all of my cards cancelled within like half an hour. And then I had to order new cards, and I got my new card like 2 days ago. It was tough. I hate feeling like someone's invaded like my privacy like that, and it's not a fun feeling at all. I've been slightly more paranoid about it happening again recently, so that was a thing. And then now we're in modern day times. We're back. I have just returned. I say just returned. I returned on Sunday evening from visiting one Joe, and it was fun. I went to Worcester for the first time. It was an experience. I saw Joe. Yeah. I saw Kestis. I saw Kestis' fiance. I saw Kestis' 60,000 rats. I saw Kestis' cat. I saw Cathedral. I had a fry up 2 days in a row. I had a good Airbnb.
We played board games.
I didn't win a single fucking board game.
No, you didn't.
5 different games, and then we played Cards Against Humanity, and like, I don't get it. So I had a friend with me, and I brought them up to meet everybody. I was like, hey, dipshit, meet the other dipshits. And this dumbass met all of my friends, won at board games, and then proceeded to win at Cards Against Humanity.
They did.
And just like, I'm gonna just say this here: the audacity to be winning at Cards Against Humanity and then be like, "Oh, can I have some of the vape, please?" And just took a hit of the vape. I was like, "Oh, look, I own this shit. Fuck you. How about that? Okay, I don't have a lot, and you're taking things from me. Okay, I find that hurts me." Like, this is like the Gen Z version of like pulling out a Magnum and shooting someone in the head and taking a hit of a cigar and being like, all in a day's work. Like, you know, well, like, who are, like, this is what Silly Wells is all about. Okay? These traumatic experiences have been painful.
It's funny. I almost won that Cards Against Humanity game. If it was pretty close between us. I think that definitely my sort of host and desire to like care for you very much also extended to them, where it's like I really wanted you both to appreciate the fact that you come, because not only had you haven't been to Worcester and you hadn't seen me at Worcester, I was also thinking about this. When was the last time you saw Kez?
Like 8 years ago. No, more than that. Like,
it can't be that long ago. 8 years ago?
Bro, when did you guys leave to go to university? How old are we all?
You've genuinely not seen him since then?
Nope.
I'm trying to think if that's actually possible. I guess it must have been.
It is.
In my head, I'm like, there was a period of time where we used to come back.
He
like there was
never
maybe
came
a
back
year
properly.
or two. But yeah, he didn't come back as much as I did. And I don't think because I'm thinking about the years now. Like like maybe the first year I can imagine it, but after that I don't actually think he would have as much. So yeah, it's been a very long time since you two had met each other. So I think obviously you've spoken to each other much more recently. God, it's fucking good that you've seen each other, given that we're going away. Yeah. But like, and I already knew that it had been a long time. I just hadn't really done the maths in my head to actually work out like, oh shit, that is that long ago. But you know, I was essentially all of that energy was like going to both of you. So I was just like, I want you both to like have such a good time. So for me, I just didn't notice like so much of that, like of that discrepancy or like that, or anything like that, because I think I just wanted you both to enjoy yourself as much as possible. And it was nice meeting them as well. Didn't know like that much about them, so it was cool to actually like meet them. I mean, you'd spoken about them in the past, but
yeah.
But like for me to actually meet them, it was cool.
So honestly, I kind of had like a moment of revitalization when I was in Worcester, and I was like, oh, I need this. I need this apartment. I need this life. I need this energy. I need this feeling. Like I arrived to Worcester before my friend did, and had a moment of like an hour or so of walking through the streets of Worcester, and I was like, oh, I like this place. But I like any place where I know I'm fully free. You know?
For sure.
There's something really sad at the moment with me, because I'm in between houses and all that stuff. So I'm plotting an escape to move out from my family home, as they call it. And the feeling I get is going home is the best part of the journey, but I hate actually arriving back at home. And there's no rhyme or reason for it, you know? It's just a thing that exists. And I love traveling. I love organizing traveling. I love getting on a plane. I love getting on a train. I love walking places. It's just traveling is such a fun thing. And everyone I know hates it. They're like, oh, it's so stressful. Like, I hate traveling places where I'm in a rush, like traveling to work and all that stuff. No. Going away and traveling to travel away was so much fun. Like, my favorite part of wrestling shows was traveling to like a random fucking seaside town and whatever, only to rest for like 5 minutes, you know? Like, you've got a lot to cherish and take in. So for traveling to Worcester was great. My headphones died halfway through the journey, and I was like, oh God. And I just felt like at peace. I was playing Football Manager. I've sold Kestis to Sevilla. Like, it's just, yeah. I felt at peace during the whole week. Yeah.
I'm glad. I mean, it's and yeah, like you said, like it's a very different feeling, like going somewhere where you feel totally free and then like actually living somewhere or something like that. And of course, I wanted to offer you like whatever you asked for, or like, you know, I gave you recommendations about things to do. We did do a walk along the river. You ended up going in a fucking like boat, which I didn't know existed, which is funny. Just a historical boat crossing that's been there for, what was it, like hundreds of years, like over 100 years, which is awesome, but something I didn't realize existed because it's only around for some of the year. And for me it was great as well, because I feel like now not everyone who matters, because there's lots of people who matter in my life who I'd like to see in my place, if that makes sense, because it does make a difference, I think. But being able to, I think like I've hit the like, you know, I've hit my family and I've hit my extended family. Like I've hit pieces of both now. And, you know, I mean, you never even saw my house because there wasn't really a reason for you to come to my house exactly, and it would be slightly complicated for reasons of a dog. But apart from that, like, you know, you got to, even you just going to like, you know, Cassis's house and Demi's house and things like that was, all right, Carl, no, that's a motorbike, was very like, that was nice enough just to, because, and again, this is a weird thing as well, I really like the idea of, and it's the same with my parents coming to my house, I really wanted them to at least come inside at some point, because I just really wanted them to see a place that me or my friends live, you know, like that's part of like our place in Worcester, not just like, you know, and not just the city and you just experiencing an Airbnb, you know. So it was great. I loved it, and I actually ended up, you know, enjoying bits of Worcester that I haven't enjoyed in a while. Like, to be honest, that's the nice thing when people come over, right? You enjoy the bits that you can, that you normally would forget to go to, or you're a bit miserly, so so you're not going to pay to go to and so on. So it was a good it was a good reason, it was a good distraction, and yeah, I thought it was great. That's what I think. That's one of the reasons why I completely forgot about, like, why I didn't have anything to talk about, was because because some of it was spent with you, and I just kind of completely removed that from my head when thinking about the channel. So it's quite funny, really. Very positive, though.
Yeah,
a shockingly positive experience to have that we don't normally get to. Also, one that we overlap so much on.
Yeah, like, it's just we're at a state where, you know, even currently right now it's not the most positive of situations, but that was a good highlight. I'm looking forward to, in a couple of weeks' time, when we go to Amsterdam. So yeah, that's it, really.
Yeah, love
and that means Jesus, I nearly died. Train nearly fell off the fucking tracks. Choo choo! That train is dying. It's time for recommendation station. Joe, kick us off.
It's called Blueprints. I did check to see if it's called The Blueprints, but it's not. It's called Blueprints. Some people probably will know about it. It's been making a few waves, I think, in different corners of the internet, Twitch, YouTube stuff. It's a game. It's a puzzle game. It's kind of roguelike-y, but not. It's not really. That's actually a mistake. I wouldn't say that. I think some people might describe it that way. I wouldn't describe it that way. But it works in a fashion of where you kind of have to, like, repeat. You know, there's lots of different puzzle. There's a major puzzle which you kind of have to repeat in order to eventually reach a goal, and that goal, when you've done, I think this is my understanding as it is, as it currently stands, because I'm partly thinking whether I should stop watching any content about it so I can play it myself. Once you've completed that goal, that's the game. You know, it's a puzzle game, so ultimately, you know, but there's enough, but it's not a puzzle game that you can, once you know the solution, to solve. If anyone's ever played Outer Wilds or knows about Outer Wilds, that's a game where the entire thing is about knowledge, but the act of finding out knowledge in the game is so incredibly wonderful an experience. But if you watch someone play it, or if you played it once, you can still enjoy the experience, but you can never. But really, once you've played it all, you actually can never play it again the same way, because you just know information that circumvents everything, if you know what I mean. Like, the game speed run is incredibly short because you just have to do an action and then that's it, right? And you just have to know things. But as and this game probably falls into that category, so maybe only look a little bit into it if you're interested. I don't want to give too much away, and I can't really describe it that well, but you know, look a little bit into it, and then probably don't, because there are lots of little mysteries you learn along the way, and like rules of the game and things like that kind of get exposed as you continue playing. So have a look at it, see if you like it, and then I would recommend it. I actually don't know where you can buy it, so I'm going to look that up while you're recommending your stuff.
Well, yesterday was an excellent day in the world of music. Hi, Ryan. Also, for two very clear reasons, Lastelle and InMe both dropped music videos 1 hour in between each other. So InMe was like, hey, 6 o'clock, we're dropping ours. And they did. They dropped the song Confessions along with a music video on YouTube. Excellent song. Heavy. They are like, Ryan describes it as sounding like the old InMe. InMe's very new to me, so it all sounds the same. But it's hard hitting, it hits you where it needs to hit you, and it's just, well, it is something that would either get you pumped up and ready to go and make you thinking about the things you've done in your life. The song is called Confessions. It's now on all streaming platforms. Give it a listen. 7 o'clock, Lastelle was like, hey, we're joining in the party too. And their song, Tired Eyes, was released by a music video. Now, this is going to go up, and you've missed the chance to listen to it, which is really sad. But at the end of the Tired Eyes music video, about 4 or 5 minutes plays of anonymous voicemails that fans of Lastelle was able to phone in and sent to the band, and they edited it into the end of the video, and it's messages to people who they've missed, people who've passed, people who haven't even passed, people who they've hurt, people who were victims of people who've been hurt. Pretty much whatever was on your mind, you could call it in. It is a beautiful 4 minutes of just raw emotions. The band is only going to keep it up for 24 hours. This is the 24th hour, so it's probably going to be gone by the time this comes up. I'm going to guess this episode will be done by Saturday. It's the 25th, so this episode should be up tomorrow morning. But Tired Eyes as a song is incredible, especially because I've been dealing with a lot of the issues in the song myself, so it hits me in a personal level. Lastelle as a band have been perfect. We make a joke between Joe and I that I talk about them a lot. It's just because a lot of their stuff has been very, it's been very relevant to my life, and Tired Eyes is very relevant. On a literal level, because I've been struggling to sleep and my eyes are very, very tired, but also on an emotional level, because the song is a lot more than just tired eyes. No, it really does delve into, it is, I'll call it, it unleashes locked up emotions. Music is great. Fucking great. Honestly, it really is. I think we're working to a very strong end of the year in terms of music, because Lastelle's announced that Exist Volume 2 will be coming out September 21st, I believe it is. So, and InMe has a new album, Demons, coming out soon. We're in a good place in music. Did you find out where Blueprints can be bought?
Yeah, I've actually downloaded it on Xbox Game Pass because I didn't realize it was free. But it's on Steam. I believe it's on PS, and it's on Xbox Game Pass right now, and just Xbox in general.
Cool. Choo choo! And that was Recommendation Station, which means we're gonna take 2 steps to the rear and get out of here. We're in the wind. See ya.
Love thyself.